Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the OFFBEND podcast. Uh, Today we've got a really, really great episode planned for you. We got some cool stuff to talk about, some recent travel we came off of that we'd love to recap for you. But as usually, we always start with, as usual, we always start with some film industry headlines, the rapid fire edition. So let's go. Let's go right into it. First one we have here is the Cannes Film Festival. That's opening real soon. I believe it's opening tomorrow, May 13th. Obviously, it's not in the continental United States, so the date could be wrong. It could be either the 14th or the 12th. Depending on time zones, I'm not really sure. But anyways, for me, it opens the 13th. And it's going to have a lot of great films there, a lot of industry people there looking to party, looking to acquire some films, that kind of stuff. I'd love to get there at some point in my film career. But yeah, that's going on. And Robert De Niro, legendary actor, is receiving the honorary Palme d'Or. So congratulations to him. And I hope everybody at Cannes has a great time. And yeah, I'm really excited to get going to festivals and stuff like that as we chart down this path further. So yeah, just felt like mentioning that. The next one is the Paramount Skydance merger. This is an $8 billion deal forming Paramount Skydance Corporation pending FCC approval. I think we've mentioned this one before, but I think the steps are pretty much closer to being finalized at this point. The next one is the proposed film tariffs. So President Trump, he said that he's going to impose potential 100% tariffs on foreign films. Obviously, this would cause a lot of concern because even, there are a lot of incentives to shoot overseas. That's why a lot of things are being shot overseas these days, because they're being attracted there by the legislature that's attracting them. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you're just shooting on location because the film is set in another country or stuff like that. I think punishing everybody that shoots overseas is like blanket statements seldom ever really work out. But anyways, yeah. The next thing is John Voight. I don't want to say his name wrong, but he's the special ambassador to Hollywood in this presidential staff. And he recently laid out his plan for saving the film industry. I know one of his big things was federal tax credits, which for me personally, I think would be awesome, but maybe I'm a little biased. But I think it was sweeping 10% federal tax credits that stack with local jurisdiction tax credits. For example, if you had a 40% credit in something like Louisiana, and then you got the federal 10, then you then have a 50% tax credit. I'm no expert on any of this stuff, so don't take what I'm saying to heart, but I know that's the plan, at least as it is on papers. Interesting stuff, interesting developments going on, especially on the legislature side, which isn't, there's always stuff going on with contracts and unions and things like that. But in terms of governmental affairs, that's seldom been a Hollywood problem, at least in my experience, limited experience. So it's interesting, maybe not cool. Maybe cool is not the right word, but it's interesting to see what's going on there. I'm excited to hear how that one in particular kind of rounds out. But yeah, that's it for the industry rapid fire news segment. I'm going to keep it short for today because we do have a lot to cover and I want to make sure that we can get around to it all. The second thing we want to talk about is our Atlanta trip. So what was it? It wasn't this past weekend, but the weekend prior. Carson, Stephanie, our chief marketing officer, and myself all traveled down to Atlanta, Georgia, where our co-head of production, Marshall Hodges, resides. We've mentioned Marshall on the show, and hopefully we can have him on here in an official capacity sometime soon. But he's an awesome guy. We were in Baton Rouge with him. It was an awesome time. It was super fun. But we got to go down to his neck of the woods. We got to meet the director for our film High Stakes, who we've brought on board and have only met through like Zoom calls and meetings like that. So it was really, really cool to be able to meet him in person. And then some things I got to do, and I'll talk about my experience and then kind of hand it off to Carson. Some things I got to do. I got to see the volume stage at Trilith Studios, which was really, really cool. Apparently Trilith is owned by the same guy or family that owns Chick-fil-A, which is interesting. I would never have known that if I wasn't told that. And we got to see a commercial being shot there. I won't say what it was because I don't think I'm at liberty to do so, but it was pretty cool being on a real set like that. And then we went and picked up Carson. And then from there, the trip was even more cool than anything I saw before. So to kind of back it up a little bit, Carson and I were told that we should come down to Atlanta. Our director, his name is Nelson. He was shooting a short film. Marshall knows Nelson well. He was going to be a producer for this project. he wanted us to come down and just kind of observe Nelson's set behavior, help out on set, see what it's like, and get us some exposure. And of course, we were all for it. It's an amazing opportunity. But we get there, and Nelson, when we meet him at Trilla, tells me, hey, you might have to do some acting tonight. And then so I'm going to pick up Carson at the airport, and I call him, or rather he calls me because he wants to figure out where I'm at. And so I'm like, hey dude, I got a surprise for you though. And then he's like, what? And I'm like, never mind, I'll just tell you when you get in the car. So he gets in the car, and I'm like, you ready to do some acting tonight? And he's like, what? And that's how I felt too, because we had no preparation for it. Now, here's where things get really, really interesting. So, Carson, I'll hand this off to you here because I think you can explain this. But the film festival, like, explain the rules of like what we're into that.
Yeah, so it was the 48-hour film festival. We had a little bit of parameters for our film. So it was a very short film, 4 to 7 minutes. They gave us a genre, so it was either a road movie or alternative history. We chose a road movie. We got a prop, which was a paper clip. We had a line that was, careful, you're gonna break it. And then we had a character who was called Loki Masterson. He was the parking lot attendant. That was my character. And so this was all on Friday night. We got all these parameters for the film. And so we go over to Nelson's house and we start like kind of getting in the flow process of trying to figure out how we wanted to film this, because originally Nelson was just filming something that he had experienced at a car wash. So that's how we got the permits for the car wash. He had already kind of had that planned to be at the car wash. And so that's where we filmed from. We got there around 9. Which was funny because people were still washing their car at 9. Nobody kind of expected that. We were kind of surprised to see people washing their car. But I don't think we started filming until like midnight at least. Like it had been like a while because we like waited for them to leave, and then we were setting things up and it started to rain. So we had to we had to wait. And then me and Hayden's scenes didn't get filmed until like an hour later.
No,
because our characters are basically like the ones that kind of we're the antagonists basically, and the protagonists are on this road trip, and we end up robbing them and stealing their car. And so we finished filming that all at 4 a.m. So it was a very long night. We ended up going to Waffle House after, which that made it kind of worse because we stayed up even longer. And then
you didn't get the All-Star special.
I know. Sad times. But then after that, me and Marshall had to take the media over to our editor because, like I said, it was a 48-hour film festival. So we had a full 48 hours to film it and submit it to the film festival. So we had to get that media over immediately to the editor. And he ended up having a first cut for us around, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 the next day. Like, he really put out some good timing on the edits. And then we had a final cut around Sunday, right before it was supposed to be turned in. So it was right around 4 minutes. And yeah, it was such a fun experience. Like I'm really glad that we got to do that, just because like we have that first experience before we start doing high stakes.
Yeah, no, that was the best part of it for me. I think in a lot of ways it felt really good to be able to get on screen before we were actually doing it in an official capacity with tons of money on the line. Obviously, jumping into it head first like that, we're going to need to practice. We're going to be bad at first. But the feedback we got was that we did pretty good for beginners. And I think the short film really speaks for itself. As for that, the film is going to be entered in some more festivals likely after this 48-hour film festival. It's really well shot, really well lit. The crew did an amazing job. It felt like a very professional shoot. It was a small one, but it was professional nonetheless. There was top grade equipment, really, really skilled people with expertise, deep in specific areas of filmmaking. It really felt good to be surrounded by people like that really cared about what they were doing and what they were presenting. And like Carson said, we were kind of the antagonists, which made it even more fun because we get to act, totally different than we normally would. It's funny because the relationship between the two main characters reminded me of a time that I did the same thing to Carson and Corbin. Essentially, without giving too much away, I got mad at them one time and I was just like, get out of my car, just get out. And then I made them walk. I don't remember where they walked to, but they walked somewhere.
We walked for beefing. Like a minute, and then you came and picked us up, and then we kind of reset, It was that
Yeah,
little time that kind of just like made everybody kind of become cooler, you know. But
yeah, and it was just one of those things. We had been spending a lot of time together around then, so I think we were just getting on each other's nerves a little bit. It happens though. It's no ill will, but it was just funny because that's like, something that's literally happened to us, and then we got to play on the opposite side of that, which was even more funny. And there's some other dynamics that play there as well that are really hilarious. But overall, it's barely 4 minutes long, but it's got a lot of twists and turns, and it's damn funny. So, whenever we are able to share it, please do expect that. I don't know in what capacity, if we're able to upload it anywhere or anything like that. I'm really not sure, but as soon as we have an answer on that, you guys will know. And as soon as it's anywhere, we'll send you to find it. So, but yeah, that was so fun. It was actually so fun. And like Carson said, we got to go to Waffle House with everyone afterwards. We met some people there that were really cool, and they had conversations with us. And really, we didn't feel like we were the outcasts there, despite us being like, I was method acting. I was walking around the whole set just calling people. I just kept calling people names, not really names. I called them one thing in particular. I just don't want to say it on here because I don't want to get, banned or blacklisted or anything. But, I kept going around. I was in character, that's what my character was supposed to say. Now, funnily enough, he doesn't actually say this anymore. He instead says something else. But no, dude, super fun. And I'm really excited about what it means for high stakes. A lot of those same people that were there are going to be working on high stakes with us as well. And the dynamic was nothing but fun and creative, and everybody was vibing. And there were some tense moments, and the director trying to get stuff out of us that maybe we didn't really realize we had in us, kind of thing. And I think he also was approaching it with caution. Like, this is our first time doing this. Like, what are we gonna pull from? Really, like nothing. Like, we've never done this before. But overall, the experience was nothing but positive vibes for me. And then the next day, we were all just hanging out. I think that was Carson. You stayed Saturday night, right? Because you left Sunday. So yeah,
well, that was Friday night. So Saturday
yeah,
was
yeah.
when we were just hanging out. We went to the movies. We saw Sinners, which we'll review later. And then on Sunday, that was when we had the acting class with Greg Allen Williams.
Yes, which brings me to my next point: the acting class with Greg Allen Williams. Now, I don't know if class is really what I would describe it as, because it wasn't like a formal learning setting, and we were definitely learning. Like, don't get me wrong, this guy was teaching us a lot, and I'm so grateful for him taking up the time and energy and effort to do that. If you guys ever get a chance to meet Greg Allen Williams, I think you would echo exactly what I'm saying here. Yeah, exactly. Carson's giving us the thumbs up here.
How did I even do
Genuinely,
that?
I don't know. You had a thumbs down earlier. I don't know where it's coming from.
What?
I think it's the Mac reactions or something.
That's crazy.
But no, this guy, Greg Allen Williams, super great guy. He's an actor. He's a professional. He's been in a lot of stuff, had a lot of roles. One of his more recent, well-known roles, just because the show is freshly, I mean, it freshly just ended actually. Righteous Gemstones. He was Martin,
Accountant.
the kind of right-hand man to Eli Gemstone in a lot of ways, and he did that role really, really well. But I'm telling you guys, this guy in person, he's hilarious. He's super genuine. You can tell he cares about, what he's doing and the craft and acting and all that. And there's not enough good things I could say, even just from our one encounter. I'm really grateful that he took the time on us. But that was a whole experience in and of itself, because we got there, we had a short blurb of the script to read, and it was Carson and I's characters, Adam, Raupo, and Sal Strania. We're sitting there, we're getting ready for a party without giving too much away. There's a party in the movie. We're getting ready for this party, and it's kind of just the lead up to that. It's a slow burn type of little excerpt, but it kind of characterizes both of our characters as different and gives them individuality instead of being kind of a amorphous blob of the same person with different speaking lines, which can work depending on what you're doing. But for this, we really wanted to capture that difference. But no, it was us sitting there. We had to pretend like we were under the influence, which was a little bit difficult. I won't lie about that. It really came down to, he gave us some of the best advice I've heard so far is that this movie is really going to lean heavily on our timing and our improvisational ability. And I think I haven't really thought about that yet, because the thing to me that I really want to get out of this movie is I want it to be funny, but I want it to have heart. I don't want it to be another goofy 21 Jump Street, but I want it to have the timing similar to like early Marvel movies, when they definitely had stakes and things definitely went wrong, but everyone had their, little quips and humor. Now it's maybe a little overdone, and it's more funny than not, which is okay too. But I want to make sure that our movie's kind of like that. So Carson and I, we started working on our timing and improv, and we would start from a certain spot in the script, and then we'd have to make up lines from there going forward. But yeah, I mean, Carson, like, you kind of got a little bit more of an, he was drilling you for one specific line, trying to
Well,
make you like break down emotionally.
yeah, well, the one thing I was going to add to that was when we started the scene that we were reading, he had us kind of like sit there for 10 seconds. Like he would say action, but he didn't want us to start our lines until the second action. So it like allowed us to kind of like develop into the scene and kind of like, I don't know, especially since we're playing characters who are high, like it allowed us to be in the moment and like almost feel like we are high rather than just try and like snap right into our lines. But the part that you're talking about, yeah, this was kind of like after we had done the lines, and I have like a scene where, or I have a line where like I say somebody's name, and so he was really trying to get me to be emotional for the camera rather than like hide my face. And so when we were working through that, he was really trying to push me to be uncomfortable. And I had a conversation with Marshall afterwards, and he was saying that like that is one thing about film is like you're always going to be uncomfortable, but you never want to feel unsafe. And so that was kind of like something that I did feel uncomfortable with, but like obviously I was in a safe environment, and so I didn't feel too uncomfortable that like I'm not like safe, I guess. But it was cool to like kind of really push myself to the point to really be emotional and then like bring it back and be funny. And so I think that's just something that like we'll have to work through, like trying to improv like our emotions and our lines at the same time to kind of like really bring the film to the ground level rather than trying to like prop it up to something that it's not.
Yeah, no, and we want more than anything for this movie to be good. And we really do care about making sure that it is good. And I think we owe a lot to Marshall, right? I think we need to really give him his props here. Thank you, Marshall. Directly, I'll say this. Thank you for inviting us to your home, first of all.
Yes.
We had a great time. Thank you for your hospitality. And we need to tell you this directly as well. But if you're listening, shout out Marshall, man. You're awesome. But also, thank you for taking the time to connect us with people that and that you care about, and opening up, kind of your big family to us, and treating us as if you've known us for so long. It doesn't go unnoticed, man. And we're all navigating this together, and it's a lot of fun, but you've opened up a lot of doors for us, and we hope to do the same for you. So thank you. And then obviously thank you to everybody who's helped us. Thanks Greg Allen, directly. There's not much more I could say than that. Hope that we do good enough that you are proud of us, and high stakes. That we can say, yeah, or no, you can look over and say, yeah, I taught them. Yeah, no big deal. That's kind of the reaction we want you to have. We're going to work and make sure that we really get good. It sounds cliche to say, but it was an honor. I mean, this guy has Emmys. He's an Emmy winner, and they gave us some key lessons and some key insights, and it was truly an honor to work with such a veteran actor who's been around and seen so much. So yeah, all in all, man, this trip to Atlanta was great for widely different reasons than Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge was awesome too, and New Orleans, awesome too. It was really great. And I'm another thing I'm really glad about, so we haven't really discussed this a lot, but diving a little bit more personal on this. I live in Texas now, but for, let's see, from like freshman year of high school when I met Carson until like all the way through college, we all lived in the same state. That's like 8 years. So we're like good friends. We're close. We see each other relatively often, at least in college. We weren't, I mean, we actually weren't even that far, but I didn't see him that much in college, just because we were at separate schools. So I'm glad that this has given us the opportunity to come back together, at regular intervals. It's good to hang out with, you guys again. And I don't know, just wanted to say that it's nice that it's bringing us together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just while I'm in a sentimental mood here. Anyways, I'll stop sapping on it. But no, it's awesome, man. I'm happy about it. I'm super excited to keep building. We have a lot of cool things in the works, but that's it. That's all I have for Atlanta, unless you got anything else that you wanted to add.
I guess one thing about just like the short film, like I feel like it was probably the same for you as well. Just like starting, like it really felt like the nerves were really like there. And then once you kind of like had the time, like on the screen, like the camera's in your face, it kind of like it changes, and you progressively kind of like, all right, this is kind of what we're doing. Like, I might as well lock in. Like, obviously, I wanted to lock in, but at a certain point, it was like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not nervous anymore. Let's just do it. Let's get it over with. Here are my lines. I'm going to say them to the best of my abilities and do what, like, Nelson is trying to get out of me. And yeah, it was just like a really cool experience. And then same thing with Greg Allen, like doing what he wanted and like him being like, all right, this is good job, almost in a sense, like letting us know that like we're doing what he wants is like definitely gives us more confidence to be able to do high stakes and obviously in a bigger fashion than the short film and what we did with Greg Allen.
Yeah, no, it was really cool that we got to act, and it was kind of spur of the moment, but the short film was awesome. I'm super happy that we got the opportunity to do that. And like Carson said, I was so nervous when they were like, "Oh, you're up. It's time. Start get into character." I'm like, "Bro, no. I don't want to do this anymore." But
And another thing is there was a guy filming like behind the scenes stuff, so we'll probably be able to put that out right, way before the film actually. So that'll be cool to
yeah.
kind of show the our followers.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely got interviewed a few times, and I'm interested to see how those actually turned out. Oh, when I tell you guys, I was so tired at this shoot. I flew in at 3 in the morning, and I didn't go to sleep until 6 in the morning. I was up for 27 hours straight. I was exhausted, and I had to drive an hour home before that to go to sleep. It was dangerous. I mean, when they say that you shouldn't drive if you're tired, you should just pull over and sleep, there's some truth to that because you do not want to pass out at the wheel and just crash. Like, that's dangerous. I don't recommend anybody do that. Luckily, I knew myself well enough to know I wasn't actually going to fall asleep, but it was pretty close, man. If I had been up another hour, I would have had to stop somewhere. Let me just say that. But anyways, it was an awesome trip. It was good to see Carson. It was good to see Marshall. It was good to see everybody on the set, Nelson and Josh and everybody that we met. You know, Garrick and Guy. Those guys were really cool. Everybody, you know, it was a really, really great experience. But let's go ahead and move on. We got our movie review segment. We're back, folks. 3 movies this time. We're not reviewing an episode of the studio, although there was 2 really good episodes of the studio that recently came out. Thank you, Sal Saperstein, for that. But anyways, we got 3 movies for you again. First time in I don't know how many episodes. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So the way that we're going to do this time is I'm going to say the movie, I'll give my review, and then I'll give my star rating, and then I'll pass to Carson to do the same movie, and then he'll pass it back to me to do the next one, and so on, if that wasn't intuitive enough. But let me just pull up my notes here because I want to make sure that I'm saying everything I want to say. The first one here is Sinners, and we finally saw it, folks. We finally saw what everyone was talking about. And this is one of the things we did on this trip, as Carson mentioned. We went and saw it with Marshall and his wonderful girlfriend. And it was awesome. And, you know, it was a great movie. And there's a lot that you can say about it. And it's gotten critical acclaim for a reason. For me, I thought it was a really great film overall. It said a lot without actually saying it, if you know what I mean. Like, obviously, that's what movies do already. You know, you know, characterization of the setting and the cinematography and the dialogue. It all kind of says something without saying it. But this movie did that on a deeper, more visceral level than anything I've seen in a really long time. But what I really came away from this thinking is I would really like to see what Smoke and Stack were up to prior to this movie starting. Obviously they were veterans, but they were hustling people down in Chicago is what I gathered from the story. I'd like to see the shenanigans that they were up to down there. I think it would be interesting because they were very cool characters, and I like the way that they were, you know, their relationship fizzled throughout the movie. You know, I don't want to speak on things that I don't really understand or know, but like, it was a phenomenal movie from my perspective, even without, you know, all of the, you know, deeper rooted stuff, you know, even looking without all that. It was phenomenally shot. The set dressing was amazing. The score was really good. Ludwig Göransson, who did the Oppenheimer score, did this movie. Him and Ryan Coogler were apparently roommates, which is pretty cool to know in college. Everything about it just immerses you right into the world with all of its triumphs and shortcomings. And, you know, obviously this movie wasn't entirely nonfiction, right? Like, there's vampires running around killing people. At least I hope not nonfiction. But still, it was very, very good. And a lot of the stuff that it did pull from the real world was really deep and impactful and meaningful. And bravo Ryan Coogler. That's all I have to say. But, if I had to give this movie a star rating, oh man, I mean, I have it on here as a 4.5, but it was definitely like a 4.9, a 4.8. It's like not quite perfect. It's not quite like a 5.0, but it's a damn good movie. You know what I mean? It's like it's up there, like really, really close to being perfect, but it's just not. It's towing the line, so to speak. But yeah, 4.5 for me is probably where I would put it if I had to put it on a out of 5. But again, super great movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you see it. I know it's got some horror elements to it. There's definitely a few jump scares in there, things that catch you off guard, things that, you're not really fond of. But, there's a lot more to it than that. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it to Carson now. You can give your review and your rating, and we'll move to the next movie after that.
Yeah, a lot of the same things you said. I think something that I want to add is like it had the right amount of comedy for like a serious like slash scary like thriller. It really put in the right dialogue to like have really funny moments, and like the whole theater laughed at like a lot of scenes, but I think that kind of helped like elevate the film, and like it didn't take itself too serious. It's like not one of those films that like it's too serious to where like, all right, yeah, this, yeah, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then another thing I wanted to add, like you did say something about like the camera work, but I think one thing I really liked was like the camera angles, and one thing I really specifically liked was like the car scenes when they were driving along that field. It really like put into perspective like everything in view of where they were at, and it's just a huge field. And that's really cool to see, and it like puts into perspective the time of where like I guess the day and age of where the film is, and yeah, like all that stuff, and then also Michael B. Jordan just was awesome. Like he really put in work between his two characters and like trying to separate them rather than just be the same character. It was really enjoyable, and I think I'll have to give a similar rating around like a 4.3, 4.4.
Okay.
So am I
Yeah.
giving the film?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we have Warfare next. Warfare. I really liked it. I talked about it a little bit in one of the previous episodes, but I think some stuff I wanted to add is like I think I kind of mentioned it on what I was talking about previously, but the real world situations of combat, and like just seeing what like a soldier could go through, because it's all based off their memory, is really cool to kind of like see what someone who has experience like that has gone through. And PTSD is no joke, and thank you for like our veterans, like thank you for your like their service. Like it really puts in a perspective for someone who has never had that type of experience. And then another thing in the film that I really liked is the show of force for the jets. I think just having that in the film like really is crazy. Like just being able to fly over a city like that and show force, of the jet is insane. Like the wind of the jet is insane. It's super loud. The actors in the film that are portraying like the impact of what the fighting has already like impacted them, like they have like another kind of like reaction, like holy shit, like it's really amazing to just see what like could go on in a real world situation. But I think my rating of the film has to be pretty high. I really liked it. I don't think it beats Sinners, but I'll give it a 4.2.
No, that's fair, dude. Yeah, look, Warfare, it's a great movie. Sometimes war movies, they can get misconstrued a bit as propaganda, but this film, it went through great lengths to kind of dispel any sense of that. From the onset, the soldiers that we are kind of with, the Navy SEALs, they are in a very difficult situation. They are essentially trapped, surrounded by adversaries, and this is in '06 in Iraq, right? So from the beginning, this already is a difficult situation, assuming no other layers of intricacy were piled on. But then throughout the movie, a number of injuries occur, a number of bad and unexpected things happen, and for the characters to just feel how they felt and go through what they went through, dude, I don't like that really happens to people like often. And I still remember the screams that were on the screen, and they were acted. Those were not real, but that kind of stuff is legitimate, and it did happen to real people. I mean, this is based on a true story. that's kind of what I wrote. But I also did actually, oddly enough, write about the show of force as well. I really appreciated the attention to detail with that. Is I'd never seen something like that in a war movie, but that does really happen. I also liked the grenade they threw through the window, how it like really didn't do much to anybody, like it didn't hurt anybody that much. In '06 Iraq, Corbin and I were actually talking about this. Our good buddy Corbin, he's a kind of a historian type of guy. He likes that kind of stuff. The enemy, so to speak, having the weakest grenade ever in '06 Iraq, is entirely plausible. Like that makes sense for the time period and accuracy. There's not really much I didn't like about this movie at all. I mean, I feel like each character got, a moment to shine, but it wasn't a heavy narrative driven piece. There was just a lot of traumatic experiences going on, and you kind of come away from the movie feeling that and reeling in that. And I was thinking about it for a few days, man. So that's really what movies to me, that's what it's all about. So yeah, that's Warfare. It was a phenomenal movie. I would give it a 4.2 out of 5. Yeah, 4.1, 4.2.
So,
Brilliant movie.
so something I forgot about is the intro. The intro to the film is so hype. Like I loved it because it's like at first you're like, what? What am I? What? Are we in the wrong movie? Type of thing.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to all of the Navy SEALs in one room just watching what we were watching, and like the music gets louder, and like they just start hyping themselves up because they're about to go on this mission. And so it's really cool to just kind of see that like elevation in the film, and then all of a sudden it's like quiet and they're like sneaking at night. It's I just love the intro, and that's something I wanted to kind of add in there. But yeah, it was a great film.
And one thing I'll just add on before we close on that one, if you have a weak stomach, I do not recommend going to see this movie at all. There's some pretty gruesome stuff that happens. I'm not a gore person myself. I don't enjoy looking at it. I don't, some people do. Most people I would probably say don't, but some people do. I don't. That said, though, I can easily go watch like a Terrifier movie and be fine. So it didn't bother me too much, but if it really gets to you, just fair warning. We do recommend this movie, but not if you don't do well with like blood and stuff. Because let's just say it won't be good for you. Let's just say that. But moving on, though, the third movie, this is kind of a good one because we've done a lot of railing on Marvel for a while. So I think, we're going to have some good things to say today, which is good. And that's going to be Thunderbolts. So Thunderbolts, I'll admit, when it was first announced, I did not care. I really did not care. I was like, why are they making this movie? This is dumb. Like, I want Tony Stark and the Avengers. I don't want this garbage. Get this off my screen. But, as time went on, I was like, wow, they're really going to make this? I thought for sure this would get canceled because, like, who asked for this? And then now it's out. And all I can say really is, wow, like, cooked my expectations, like, blew them out of the water. This movie was good. And it was the breath of fresh air with Marvel that I've been looking for a while. And was it perfect? No, not by any means was it perfect, but it was damn good. The things that I really liked about this movie. First of all, the emotional stakes. It's one of the first movies in a while in Marvel that really delved into real world behaviors and mental health and all that kind of stuff. And it was good to have those themes and those undertones because it's good to feel like, they're in the same human world that we're in, despite obviously having powers and stuff. And I hope there's not a guy that can just float around and zap me into my worst moment ever at a moment's notice. That would suck pretty bad. But despite that, they're all still human. So I really like that humanization that kind of went on. And the ensemble of characters, damn good, man. Wyatt Russell as John Walker, man, a U.S. agent, did a phenomenal job. And I'll admit, when he was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was like, this guy is like, well, this sucks. Like, I'm not a big fan of this. Damn good in this movie. He's funny. He's got heart. You can tell he cares. He acts like he doesn't. He's a good. He has a lot of the traits from when he was still a soldier, in him. So, and Yelena, oh my gosh, phenomenal. She was kind of in Natasha's shadow in the Black Widow movie. And then in the Hawkeye show, nobody was really like, she was kind of a secondary character. But in Thunderbolts, she's damn good. Red Guardian, man, that guy, hilarious. David Harbour, legend right there. Who else we got? We got Ghost. I'll admit, again, not really a character I was really asking to see more of, but I'm glad that I did because she actually offered some good scenes in this movie as well. So overall, it was a greatly assembled team, and you can't forget about the one and only Bob. Bob was hilarious. He was layered. He was intricate. And, I don't think it's a spoiler for anybody. Bob is Sentry. Bob is the Void. Holy hell, they did it well. And Lewis Pullman, phenomenal job acting. It wasn't Steven Yeun. I know that was like originally who it was supposed to be, but I am very happy with Lewis Pullman. I think he did a great job. Obviously, Louise Dreyfus as Val, and Bucky. I forgot about Bucky. Bucky,
I
man.
was about to say, like, are
He
you
was
gonna?
badass. He was badass in this movie. But yeah, I can go through and name every character and how awesome they were. But overall, man, if you haven't seen it, it's a lot of fun. It's a ride. Give it a chance. And I'm going to give it the highest rating I've given a Marvel movie in a while, and that's a 4.2.
Nice. I don't think I'll give it that high of a rating. It's probably like around a 4 for me. I really did like it. Something that you kind of spoke on was like the world building with like the mental health aspect. That's something I really liked with Captain America 4. Was like them building the world around the movie. Like they had the news on the screen and stuff like that. But for this film, it was really about like the president of the CIA. She like was really in control of these agents, and it was really cool to see like whoever is in charge really has the power. And at the end of the movie, like it ends up flipping to where the Thunderbolts have the power over her because she like flipped the narrative and was like, "Oh, this was all my idea. Like these are the saviors. Like I planned this." You know, she was like kind of spinning it so she didn't get fired. But Elena was like, "Yeah, we own you now," because like she knows that the power is in their hands because of her trying to keep her job. But it like you said, the aspect of like mental health, it was really cool to see how these characters kind of almost like a character growth, because in the past like you just see them in what their films or TV shows they've been in, and like their acting isn't the best because of the writing they're getting. But this film, like it it just blew all that out of the water, you know? And I think A24 did a really good job of changing the feel. It didn't really feel like it was a Marvel like superhero movie. Like it really felt like it was a standalone film almost in a sense. It really changed everything like perspective wise on other Marvel films. What else did I have here? Yeah, that's about it. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. It's definitely a film that I would watch again. I think like for a lot of Marvel films, I can't say that, but it is a film I think I would want to see again just to see what like I missed.
Yeah, no, and I think I would agree with that. You know, there's probably a lot going on behind the scenes. And the post credit, man, that was sick too.
Yeah.
Can't say enough good things. Super excited for Fantastic Four this summer. And yeah, so that's it for that segment. Kind of like the last episode, we wanted to round out things with a little bit of a game. So for today's game, we have, I don't really know what we'll call it, but I'll explain the rules here. It's a plot or not. No, I don't like that. Sequel something. Speed Pitch Sequel Edition. Let's call it that. Speed Pitch Sequel Edition. So essentially, we're each going to give each other a movie. We're going to do this 3 times alternating. We're going to give each other a movie. And once the other person gives one of us a movie, the other one then has to give a sequel pitch for that movie in 30 seconds or less. This is completely off the dome. We don't know what movies we're going to throw at each other. The only rule was to do something that the other person has seen. So it's got to be like a well-known movie. We can't do something super obscure like, some movie from 90 years ago. Like if this guy picked the original Nosferatu because he watched it, if he picked that before the new one came out, I'd be cooked because I have never even remotely watched that. I've just seen the goofy ass looking photo of him, Callan Warlock, but that's it. But anyways, nonetheless, we had to pick some recent movies. Not too recent though. I mean, we've been here a while, but yeah, Carson, you want to throw your first one at me, and I'll start us off here with the 30-second speed pitch sequel.
Yeah, so I definitely didn't pick a film that's recent. I picked my favorite film. So The Shawshank Redemption. Let's hear that sequel.
Yeah. So I think, they reunite at the end of Shawshank Redemption, right? So I think the second one's got to be their adventures after that. They're fresh out of prison. That's them exploring their freedom, and it's essentially a coming of age movie, but for old people, right? It's kind of their refining their inner youth. It's kind of a bad grandpa meets, they're just goofing around, once upon a time in Hollywood vibes type of deal. So I think they're just going around and experiencing things, and they're learning things for the first time that, they shouldn't be learning for the first time at their ripe old ages. I think that would be a good, feel good family movie for some reformed criminals. That's my pitch.
Nice, I like it. I don't know if
Right
I'd
on.
green
Right on.
light. I'd
Okay. That's fair. It's not my best work. Maybe I could use a little tune up. All right. The first one I got for you, an oldie, but a goodie. the Titanic.
Okay. So I think one thing that I would kind of hone in on is the missing gem that, oh man, I'm blanking on her name, but the main character, the female
Rose, right?
Rose, yes, Rose. I'm pretty sure she ends up having the gem. And when she goes on at like towards the end of the film, like you see like the film, it's like an actual film crew. She's being like it's a documentary about like her surviving, and she ends up like tossing. They were talking about the gem or whatever, and she ends up tossing it into the ocean where the Titanic like sank. And so I think my film would be just something about like them searching for the gem, but not knowing that she has it, and like that's just like prior to them going to the spot and her dropping it in. So maybe just something about like seeing if any of the survivors actually had it. And so I don't know, something about like the missing gem. That would be what it's called, is the missing gem.
Okay. Yeah, you can get that one on a $10,000 budget and upload it to TikTok.
I'll
That's
make a
about all I
short.
got for you.
I'll make a short film for it.
Okay, hit me with your next one.
Okay. Inception.
Foo-foo. Damn, well, I feel like that one was tied up so well at the end that you can't really. Damn, that's a tough one to sequel.
I feel like you could just play it in with like it actually didn't end. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's still
it
the
was still
dream or
incepted.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still in the dream sequence. Everything seems normal. It's basically the Matrix. I'm basically just about to pitch the Matrix. That's basically what's about to. So, yeah, just the Matrix. That's my pitch. That's my sequel for Inception, and maybe that works perfectly. I don't know, but it's not a computer. It's
I mean,
you
the
know,
Matrix did well, so
yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
you know?
So it's Inception 2 colon the Matrix. That's what I would call it. I think that works. I think that
Nice.
plays. All right, I got one for you. This one's a good one. Pineapple Express.
Kind of almost want to like play off like a Cheech and Chong type of film where, oh man, I'm blanking on the two actors' names. Seth Rogen and is it James Franco? Yeah, so like they're like basically Cheech and Chong in their next film, like just them living their lives almost, you know, after the Pineapple Express film. I feel like they could almost like rebuild that, like what's it called, like the secret hideout, you know, in the tunnel. Like they rebuild it, and that's basically where they like grow their weed now, you know, something like that.
No, that'd be cool. It'd be cool to see them in like they were the new like drug lords, but I don't know. That kind of defeats
Yeah.
the purpose, I guess. It would be funny though. That was a good movie.
Okay, my last one is Super Bad.
Oh, you know what?
You know, I
Okay.
feel like it has to be something about McLovin. You know, like he's the
Yeah,
star of the
I was gonna
show.
say it's a McLovin focused movie. He is going on a mission. He's 21 now, so he no longer needs his fake ID, but he got the official name change because he loved McLovin
Oh,
so much. So now he's McLovin for real. Because it was either that or
whoa.
Muhammad. And he joins the police force to be with his friends, the police officers from the first one. And it's all about a journey of self-discovery. And Seth and Evan are kind of tertiary characters here. They both are in business together. They run a business. And so they're not really primary focuses. Evan got with the girl that he was talking to, but Seth did not get with Emma Stone's character. Seth is still on a self-discovery mission of his own, but this movie's all about McLovin, no longer Fogel. He is now just McLovin, one word, kind of like Pitbull or Madonna. And the title of the movie is just McLovin. I think you can really just do it with that. And Mintz Plasse, he's probably old enough to play the role now. So, yeah, I think that's it. Super bad or super worse, probably, is
I
what I
would
would call it.
I would green light that. And a note I would give is have McLovin catch the two characters you mentioned, Seth and the other character,
Seth and
like
Evan.
Evan, are like smoking weed or something, and he like catches them, and he's like kind of fucking with them at first, like about to arrest them, and then he's like, nah, pass me that shit, you know, and like starts smoking with them. Like that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm Officer McLovin, and I'm gonna have to ask you to put that down because it's read a fucking book for once. I love that guy, man. Yeah, no, I think that plays. All right, then my last one for you is Bullet Train, a more recent one.
Okay. So I can't really remember the exact ending, but I think Brad Pitt's character and the girl in the film are like the train had just crashed and they were like standing there and some people show up. I don't know, like I said, I don't remember how exactly it ends, but I think something I would kind of do is just like the last stand or like the assassin's last stand almost. And I made a joke earlier, maybe just like Assassin's Creed almost, like something like that, something stupid. But my film would be like the Assassin's Last Stand, something where he's like trying to survive and basically just get back to his family, I guess.
Yeah, I like those movies where like the movie cuts off and you think they're gonna be at peace for a while, but then the next movie picks up like 5 minutes later and they're already back deep in the shit. You know what I mean? Like that. I like sequels like that where it kind of subverts your expectations. You think they're gonna get a nice little break, but then they're immediately flung right back into the action. I think it'd be funny if Ladybug finally got his break, finally got to relax, but then they immediately fling him back into it and he's getting chased by more assassins and has to keep going on the run because
Yeah,
he's not getting out of it. And it was a much deeper rooted orchestrated event than just the bullet train. And we could call it bullet trains because every bullet train he gets on, it's multiple of them, and every single one he gets attacked. And
I don't know.
I think that's a winner.
I think we'll have to shop the name, but other than that, I like it.
I think that one's a winner. All right, everybody. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the show today. There's a few things I want to mention as we round it out. As usual, we really appreciate your support, whether that means you're giving us a like or a follow on social media, where we are active on all platforms, including X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. We are ever grateful and sincerely appreciate all the support everyone gives us. There's also other ways you could support us beyond that. If you wanted to get some merchandise and wear it around, we'd really appreciate that as well. Or if you want to join our OB7 membership, it's $8 a month, pays for itself, has a lot of great benefits, and it allows you to be a part of our greater community as we continue to build, grow, and foster that and try to make something really, really amazing with the help of a lot of really, really amazing people. And then lastly, this is a new one. I just announced it today. Highstakes-movie.com is where you can go to donate to the film. There's 5 backer tiers. These tiers offer different rewards depending on your donation size. If you're someone who is more of an investor, you'd like to see some more proper terms or essentially formal investment opportunities, feel free to reach out to us at hello@offbend.com, and we're happy to field your questions or inquiries there as well on that side of things. But if you wanted to learn more about the film, or you wanted to potentially help us out and help us make it good, that is a way you can directly do so. And no matter what, if you're listening to this, you're helping us out already. So thank you truly. We couldn't do it without you. This is episode 6. We're almost to the coveted episode 7, and we're almost there, damn it. 2 more weeks and we're there. But yeah, I'm super excited to keep going. The train's not stopping for us anytime soon. In fact, I think it really just started. So I really deeply appreciate everything from everybody, and I could sit here and give thanks all night, and if you let me I will, because I have a rambling issue. And really, I'll just pass it over to Carson and give your closing remarks, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to go back to what we were talking about with Marshall. Like, I don't think we would be here where we are now without him. I just want to give him his flowers again and all his connections, like it's helped us out tremendously. And I told him this before, a friend of Marshall is a friend of ours, so if you're Marshall listening to this, watching this, thank you. If you're Marshall's friend listening, watching to this, thank you as well. Everybody else, thank you. We really appreciate anything, like Hayden was saying, if you want to help us out with the film, or if you're just listening and watching this, it really helps out. We're really trying to build something great here, and we're really excited to continue on this journey.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.